Hello everyone, welcome back to the College Sucks Summer Book Club series. A little something I'm doing to help us all slow down, reflect, and maybe pick up a few new habits while school's out. I'm your host, David Samantha Davidson, and today we are diving into Brianna Wiest, The Mountain is You, transforming self-sabotage into self-mastery. And I feel like I'm being a bit sabotaged by my own voice, which was perfectly fine earlier in the day, and now that I'm ready to record, the sun has dipped and I'm feeling like, okay, this is my best voice. It's seeking to disappear on me. Listen to me, voice, you are not going to be my mountain today. So let's be honest, I'm going to tell you about this book. This book draped me, or as the American Gen Zers would say, it came for my edges. The book came for my excuses and my little uncomfortable lies that I tell myself while I'm scrolling on TikTok instead of doing the thing I know and the thing I said I would do. So if you're listening today and thinking that sounds like me, but I really don't have time for this emotional deep dive and emotional unpacking, slow down. Do not run away. You probably need this episode the most. Summer Book Club series. Let's face it, the mountain is you. How to stop being your own roadblock. Stay tuned. Before I get into the review, let me just reiterate my purpose for this book club. So I have 3 hopes. I want to put you on books because I believe some of the solutions we seek can be found in the pages of books. Secondly, I hope you will read the books I have suggested now or in the future. And finally, if you decide that you can't wrap your head around reading this book or any featured here, you can still leave each episode with useful information, gems, and tips. Now let's get into it. So why did I pick this book? I chose The Mountain is You for this series because it's about facing the truth that a lot of us avoid. And anybody who knows me personally, if my students were to say anything about me, they would say how dry I can be and how direct I can be. And I know it may limit me sometimes in my ability to reach people and speak to them, but I just do not have the propensity for babying, right? I am good with babies, but I'm just not good at babying. And here's a joke. I want to be babied. So let's be clear. I do not have the capability, the capacity to baby anyone, but I really prefer to be babied. So this book was kind of like the me to me. You know what I mean? It was holding my hands. Well, not holding my hands, just looking me in the face directly and telling me what was what. And I must say that when I started to read it, I had to stop. I remember calling my producer. At the time, she wasn't my producer, and we were just, friends who are really into reading books, and we were discussing the books we were talking about. And I was saying to her, I'm listening to Brianna Wiest, The Mountain is You. You really should read this book. And I was just at the beginning and it felt direct and like, okay, yeah, she's going to be telling me the things I already know. But the way in which she said it in this kind of, and I don't know if it's because I was listening to the audiobook. I think she actually read a physical copy. So, her voice, when you read books and not listen to them, when you read books, you hear it in your own voice or a neutral voice. But when you listen to an audiobook, you hear it in the voice that is reading. There's no going around it. So almost anytime I've listened to a book that's by a male author, and if somebody who is female does the audiobook, I can never unhear it. Like, it's still to me in my mind a woman saying these words. So it's just that the voice for this book matches the tone of the book, which is, I am not going to hold your hands. I'm just going to stare you dead in the face and tell you that these are the things you're not doing and you cannot be successful until you do it. All right. And so that's it. It really just got to the point because it's about really facing the truth about a lot of things that we avoid. So most of the time, we are honestly our own biggest obstacles. And I was also talking to a friend of mine. She's in education as well. And we were just talking about, we're still women on the pursuit of figuring out what's next in our life and what we want to do and the goals we've set for ourselves and we want to achieve them. And I know we were talking about something which is really, it sounds really simple and trivial, but she's like, she wants to have clear skin. And I'm like, well, you just have to follow the routine, right? And she's like, yes, but sometimes I just can't bother. It's the consistency. And because I was reading this book, I was like, oh, you are your mountain. And that's honestly the reality of it. Sometimes you get as far. I'm not saying that there are not environmental issues. I'm not saying that sometimes people are just not bad lucky, unfortunate, that misfortunes won't reach you, and that there isn't malevolence in the world, that there aren't people out there that genuinely mean you bad, and people who can try to block and obstruct your path. But I have found that when those things are already mountains, when you determine that you cannot also be a mountain to yourself, and then you start to treat yourself like everything I want to achieve is in me, that's really the only way you're going to be successful. The times when I have achieved absolute success in any of the goals I've had, including this podcast, I had to do some things that were outside of what I would normally do. So I had to record, re-record, learn how to record, learn how to re-record, how to edit a little bit. I mean, my producer, bless her, she does most of the editing for me. But there were things I had to learn to do and to be comfortable with and to be open to, right? So you have to accept at some point that it is not somebody else. It's not your unfair lecturer. Not to say that they may not be unfair. It's not the difficulty of the course. Not to say that the courses are not difficult. The fact is, you sometimes procrastinate. You do all the things you're not supposed to do. And that is really the reason you're not successful. And they have a term for that. It's called self-sabotage. And over each day, I see students, I see young people, I see myself, I see my friends sometimes sabotaging their own selves. And listen, when I'm on the outside giving feedback to people, it's so easy for me to see it, to be like, you know what I mean? So I remember at one point I was my heaviest. I talk about weight loss a lot because it is a visual representation of a goal that was met. Okay, so at one point I was really, really heavy and I had to decide that I was going to eat differently. I was going to get trainers, listen to what they said. I was going to work out. I cannot express how much I dislike working out, right? I was going to do all of those things. And then immediately, not immediately, but I started to see results and then I got to my goal and, that whole thing. But you change when the thing bugs you enough to change, right? But anyway, enough of my lecture. Let's get into the book. So Wiest speaks about self-sabotage all throughout the book, and she doesn't frame it as laziness or lack of willpower. She explains it as a pattern of behavior we've learned to protect ourselves. The problem is those same patterns are also holding us back. So what are the main ideas from the book? So the main point is your mountain, that is the big obstacle you can't seem to get over, is not the thing out there in the world. It's you. And until you deal with the patterns, fears, and beliefs that keep you building that mountain, you'll be climbing in circles. So for a college student, that could mean dropping a class every time it gets challenging because you're afraid you'll fail. Always taking on too much so you can say you didn't have time and that's why you didn't do well, instead of risking your best effort and having it not be good enough. Or staying in a friend group that doesn't support you because of the thought of being alone. That makes you feel worse than being undervalued. So if I have stepped on any toes, I'm sorry. And it might sound familiar because it's true. It's really what's happening. So how do we deal with the issue? Okay, it's one thing for any author to be like, this, that, and the other is your problem. How are we going to fix it? So here are some things that she says. So self-sabotage comes from protection, not destruction. So we self-sabotage because we're protecting ourselves from something: rejection, failure, change, success that might raise expectations. In college, this can show up as procrastination, perfectionism, or overcommitting so that you can always have a built-in excuse. So for example, let's say you have a paper due. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I had this podcast due, and I told myself I would start tomorrow. And then this morning I said I would start later. I don't want to tell you what time of the day it is. And the reason is, deep down, it might be hard work. You know, you have to be in a mental state to prepare yourself. Maybe deep down you're scared it won't be good enough. Tomorrow turns into the night before it's due. And now you can say, well, I only had one night, so that's why it's not my best work. We have been there. It took me a long time to really get this podcast off the ground. I did mention that in some previous episodes, that I had the equipment. I'd gotten it as a gift. I didn't have to go out of my way. It was even shipped in. I didn't have to go and pick it up, collect it somewhere. And I still, for like a year and a half, did nothing. And finally, my friend, producer, asked me, seriously, what is the issue? What are you worried about? And I was like, I am worried about being famous. I know, do not laugh, because I am going to be, right? But I was worried about it because I tend to be a very private person. I am an introvert. Like, I cannot explain. People see my outward facing personality, but on a regular, I am an introverted person. I do very well by myself. I can function with people, but not for a long time. A lot of people, not for a long time, and not continuously like in my face. I can't manage it. You'd have to be really, really close to me. So like a good friend, naturally my spouse, naturally my siblings. I'm okay with them. But then even in those moments, I can be overwhelmed. So I was just thinking, can you imagine having to be on all the time and then starting to, just all the things that come with it? I was worried about that, which is so, not far from now, because like I said, I am going to make it. But I was really worried about that. And once I determined that that was a mountain I was building, I was able to demolish that, because that doesn't make any sense. There are people who manage being, in a public eye, and they're able to navigate it, and there are tips and tricks available to deal with that. So I was literally creating a mountain from something that was probably like a molehill. All right. The next thing is that your mountain is your teacher. So every obstacle you keep facing is a lesson you haven't learned yet. So if you keep repeating the same patterns, bad relationships, missing deadlines, losing focus halfway through the semester, that's your mountain trying to teach you something. So here's an example. If every semester you find yourself burnt out by midterm, maybe the lesson isn't college is too hard. Maybe the lesson is you need boundaries, time management, and to stop saying yes to everything. And listen, it's just like a test. Like, why do you keep failing? Why can't you pass? You have not learned enough of the content to master it yet. And sometimes you just have to take some steps back, because sometimes it's a little simple thing that you're not fixing. You know what I mean? You have to know when to put a pause on some things and focus solely on what you can manage. So she's saying that anytime this thing is a consistent concern, it is a mountain that you have not yet learned anything from, because the mountain is there to also teach you. The next thing is that growth is discomfort. We all say we want growth, but growth isn't cozy. It means shedding the version of yourself that's comfortable with less, that avoids risk, and less fear make decisions. For students, that might mean taking a harder class because it's the right one for your goals. I did give an example of my student who did not want to do accounts, but it was the right thing to do. Or finally, booking that appointment with a lecturer to figure out what you need to do to get that A grade that you've been desirous of. Okay. It's doing the work instead of just hoping that your skills will magically improve. So what tips does Miss Wiest have for you? So she says you can actually use her book in your life right now. First thing she says you should do is identify your mountain. What's the thing that keeps coming up for you? Fear of speaking up in class, always running out of money halfway through the semester, being a perfectionist to the point that you never finish anything. Whatever your mountain is, you have got to name it. And one of the things I'll say to you is that you may not be able to follow through on this step by yourself. You may need a trusted friend, a mentor, or even a student services professional. Like if you're at my college, or you can send me an email. I'll be more than happy to help you work out, because trust me, I am so direct. Like I'll just keep asking you questions until there's nowhere for you to run, and you have to identify your mountain. In the same way, my friend was able to say to me, seriously, what is your problem? Next step, you need to find the pattern. When does this happen? What triggers it? You need to ask the hard question. What am I getting out of this behavior? It might be comfort. It might be avoiding risk. It might be protecting your self-image, all of that. Then the next thing you need to do is to do the opposite, even if it's uncomfortable. Try a different response. If your pattern is avoiding office hours, start showing up. If your pattern is going to class late, start going early. If your pattern is starting your papers 2 nights before, start the minute you get it. Just start jotting down notes, underlining key terms. Just start putting work towards it. Start doing the opposite of what you would normally do. Okay? If something ain't broke, don't fix it, they say. But if it's broke, you need to fix it. So you need to figure out what your mountain is, find a pattern, ask the hard questions, and do the opposite of what you are doing. For my own personal reflection, and why this book took me a while to get back to, is because she just kept calling me out too much, man. There were points where I was turning around. I'm like, what you know about me? Like, Miss, could you please, Miss Wiest, please stop, just tugging and finger pointing and pointing out everything. Like, you're right. I get it. So I really had to put a book on pause at one point, which is why I also put it on the book list, because I was like, well, I have to finally read this book now. Because, you see, I did the uncomfortable thing. The book was difficult for me. And I was like, I have to force myself to listen to this book and work through some of the things I need to work through. So I took her advice. I did the opposite, and I set it up in such a way that I had to do it because I'm going to deliver. I did a whole ad with all the books I'm doing, and this was very much in there. So I had to come around to reading the book and getting into it. But, I'm going to tell you my own personal story because, we're friends now. So when I read this book, I had to get real with myself. My mountain isn't just one thing. It's a lot of things. Sometimes it's self-doubt. It's a lot of procrastination, which is perfectionism, right? Like if I'm not going to be able to do it good, so let me do it tomorrow. I'll be better at it next week, like honestly. And then, of course, I fall into the overwhelm of it all. So self-doubt shows up when I start questioning whether I can do this, if I'm ready for all of the opportunities that will come my way, and if I'm ready for all of the hard work that it will take to take this podcast to the next level. Like people keep saying to me, you put it up on YouTube, but you haven't done a video. And personally, I don't think I I'm okay. Like, I really love podcasts. I'm a huge consumer of them, podcasts, audiobooks. Like, I love to listen to things. I don't even watch TV, like stare at the TV. I watch the intro, and then I just put in my mind whose voice is what, and I can watch a show without ever looking at it. I miss a lot in movies because I'm really not that type of person. So it's something that's kind of uncomfortable for me. But I do feel that eventually I am going to have to do a live podcast. Well, not live, but a recorded podcast where you can see my face. I mean, I'm not broke in the face, so it's fine. But it's not my favorite thing to do. And it's not going to be something I'm doing all the time. But I do accept that it makes me a tad uncomfortable, and so it really might be the thing that's standing in the way. So I'm definitely setting myself up to deal with that, to do that, because it's not like I can. It's just I'm not the most comfortable with it, so I have to, I've written it down as one of my mountains, and just one I definitely need to climb. Then of course there's the perfectionism. For a long time, if I made a mistake on any other podcast, I would want to clean it up, edit it out. But I'm like, it's a conversation. And in a conversation, sometimes you say the wrong word, or you pronounce something wrong, or and you just need to relax. I remember once I was giving myself such a hard time for an episode. And granted, I want to say though, it's not that there are not some episodes that I do feel like in the future I will go back, I'll take them down, I will do them over and put them back up because I've grown and I have more control and I understand more. You know what I mean? Or sometimes I record in different spaces. So like now I'm in Kingston, I'm recording there in in my bedroom, which is like an office. And the audio will sound different from when I'm back at work and recording there. And just, trying to have a consistency in sound. There are things like my uncle is going to help us to figure out production. So it might get to a next level. So not to say that, of course, you must perfect your craft, but sometimes when you're busy perfecting, and by the way, perfecting that I tend to do, or a lot of people tend to do, is thinking about the perfection. So it's not like they're doing anything. It's like I would say, oh, I want to cut the time that it takes me to walk 5 miles. So I'm just going to sit down until I think I can cut the time. When the only way to cut the time is to walk 5 miles repeatedly and get better and better and fitter and fitter. So that's how perfectionism turns into procrastination, because you keep thinking about how you can perfect it, when in actuality there are people out there putting it out imperfectly and improving as they go along. And I have to continuously remind myself, right, that it's better to do and fix and improve than to think about doing and never do, because you're not going to get any awards for the things you could have done. You only get awards for the things you have done. And sometimes your less than average in your mind is somebody's dream great. You know what I mean? So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And I had to tell myself that I consider myself a creative. Creatives create. And so what was the tool I had? What was the gift I have? I can speak. I sound okay. and it was just time. So we just really need, whatever it is that you want to do, anything at all, right? Getting the good grades, getting fitter, entering competitions, winning them, singing, dancing, anything that you want to do, you're only going to improve. You're only going to improve by doing them. And so that's one of the things. And just remember that the battle is continuous, right? Because no matter how much we know the right thing, I don't know, it's just something about human beings. And that's why not everybody is successful. That's why some people are just average. The persons who are above average are the ones who understand that every day they are going to have to make decisions and choices about who they want to be, who they want to show up as. And that continuously you are going to be your own mountain in every way until you figure out each time how to remove it. It's just the reality. And it sounds exhausting, but I think at the end of the day, it can be rewarding. When you achieve your goals, it feels nice. It's really good. When I had my first 100 downloads, nobody could talk to me. Not a person. Okay? Like, I felt so good. I was so proud of myself. And I want that feeling for everybody. And it sounds small, but that means 100 people, right? Or, they listen to each episode that I had put out. And that's meaningful. That's a big deal. And I was really grateful for that. But none of that would have happened if I never dealt with my mountain. And there are tons of other things. I learned to drive late in life. I've had a bunch of setbacks with that, including in this year. And I still have to get up and keep conquering that mountain. Just saying, okay, this was a setback. This was a thing. I've learned this lesson. Now let's keep pushing, because the only failure is when you stop. Wiest's words made me realize that the three things that I battle the most, self-doubt, procrastination, and overwhelm, weren't separate issues. They fed each other. So self-doubt makes me procrastinate, procrastination creates overwhelm, and overwhelm reinforces the self-doubt. It's a negative loop. And the only way to break it is to start. So I just start everything when I need to start. And I need to start and see it through, because, I'm a Scorpio and a little bit ADHD. So I will start and stop, but no, to really start and to follow through to the end, right? So even if I feel unready, even if it's messy, even if it's uncomfortable, best believe I'm going to be doing it, because I have this one big, beautiful life, just like you do. And I owe it to myself to max it. You know what I mean? To get everything I can out of this life. Get all the money, get all the stuff I want, all the trips, all the accolades, anything that's out there for me. I want it. And that's what I'm defending. And this academic year, I would love to know what you're defending. Okay. I need you to identify your mountains going into the new year so that you can handle your business. So here is what I want you to remember. Your mountain is not here to punish you. It's here to teach you. And if you built it brick by brick through your habits, your beliefs, and your choices, you can take it down the same way. The Mountain is You is worth reading with a pen in hand. Underline the lines that make you pause, write in the margins if you have a physical copy of the book. And don't be surprised if you find yourself rereading certain sections. So that's it for today's book, The Mountain is You, Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery by Brianna Wiest. Now, please, I always say this, remember, some of the solutions we seek are in the pages of books. So if this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it with a friend who needs encouragement, and subscribe so you don't miss the next book in our summer book club series. We have 2 books left. I started with 8 books, and boy, has it been a mountain. I did surgery last week. Nothing major. So I couldn't do any recording or anything. And it's just, the summer has been a little bit harder than I expected. But I am still going. I'm still trying. I'm still moving. So we have 2 books left. Stacey Abrams her book will be next. Leave from Outside. And that's a physical book. So I'm looking forward to that. And like I said, like, share, subscribe, drop comments, engage, and stay connected to me on Instagram and TikTok at College Sucks JA. This has been another College Sucks Summer Book Club episode, a part of the College Sucks podcast series. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.